Hey guys, Ricardo with Phastek.com, and today I'm joined by Josh Barkey here from MBRP. Now we are doing the social distancing, so we are doing a Zoom call, which is pretty interesting, and we're kind of getting used to. Josh, I want to thank you, man, for joining us today. We're here to answer a couple of questions about MBRP and their products and what it takes for MBRP to make these Camaros, just sound aggressively loud and just give you that deep growl that everyone is always after. It's one of those things that people just want it. You Camaro owners, you want it, whether it's a Camaro owner, you guys know we're dabbling in the truck stuff, so truck as well. And also, if you can see in the background of his video, he's got a little surprise here for us. So it's going to be pretty interesting, Josh. I mean, you guys have really kind of taken the Camaro world, turned it a little upside down, especially with the introduction in 2016 when we first teamed up with you guys. So it was really kind of interesting. But the first thing that really kind of comes to mind when talking about exhaust systems is, what's the first thing when it comes to creating the exhaust system? How does it go from a factory setup to an MBRP setup? How does that go about?
Well, that's a really good question. But first of all, thanks for having me. Super excited to be on here with you and discuss all this. When it comes from a new system that we're starting to produce, it really comes down to what we feel the customer is going to want. You know, a lot of that comes back to history of what's sold in the past and really reaching out to some of what we would call our market mavens, which I know you are one and have been part of some of our developments in the past, and kind of getting their feel for it as well. You know, there's so many ways to build an exhaust system. There's no perfect answer, but there's a lot of good ones that can lead you down that road to a better system. So when we're looking at it, it's really customer focused, you know, from price point to the no drone to the sound level to the material. And really we kind of pick what we feel will cover a large portion of the market and then go down that path.
That's definitely a good path to go down, man, because I mean, it is one of those things that obviously even myself in mind, keep myself in mind. I'm budget friendly, right? I want to make sure I want to stick to a certain budget, no matter what I'm building, whether it's a motorcycle, whether it's a car, whether it's just a weekend project, a little go-kart, maybe something like that. Budget really kind of always sticks to mind, and we always want to kind of be sure we stick there. So MBRP has done a great job with covering all factors. They get our opinion, like you said, they talk to us, they get our feel for it, what you guys might be looking for, and we really kind of go from there. So it's very interesting. MBRP has done a great job with listening to us because we've done a good job listening to you guys. So it's one of those things that has really kind of kept in mind, and we put it in the back of our head. It's not only about us and what MBRP might want out of their systems, it's what you guys might want out of their systems. So it's one thing that we get the information, we relay to them, obviously, and then things go from there. So I mean, it's a pretty good track.
Yeah, it's worked well for us in the past. So hopefully we can keep doing the same thing and lean on you guys as a good partner in this space.
You know what? It's one of those things. It's one of those things that if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Good way to put it.
It's working. It's working. Everything's fine. Everything's worked out. You guys have done a great job doing things. So hats off to you guys for doing all that stuff.
Definitely. Thank you very much.
Moving on to a next question that is always kind of one that people always want to know, kind of the background of how things are built, and what it takes to choose what material you're going to use for the exhaust systems. So what is the difference between the material choice and why? I know myself, out of y'all's products, there are aluminized, and there's the T409 stainless. Now I know you guys offer the black coating as well, but that's not the material. That's just obviously the coating. So what makes you guys choose between the aluminized and the T409? What makes you guys choose between those materials and why?
Well, again, a lot of that comes down to budget, and ultimately climate is another large portion of it. You know, we see a lot of our sales going down to Florida, down to Texas, and a lot of areas that don't deal with rust the same way that we do in the north, per se. Mm-hmm. So at the end of the day, when you're still getting stainless steel tips or the sound, the aggressive sound, the mufflers that you're looking for, but you're able to get it in an aluminized system that will last for years on a Camaro, especially one that's only being, I'm going to say Sunday driven, or as a toy, right?
That's
so you're
right.
putting less miles on it. And at that point, you're still getting the same gains, the same look, just at a lower price point. Now, again, some of the systems we actually offer in 304, which is the whole other end of it, which is
Okay.
that best quality, best stainless steel. Again, those are for the people that want the best, and there is a price tag that comes with it, but it's definitely warranted in a lot of areas.
Mm-hmm.
With the 409 is a great mix of the two of them. You know, it'll rust, it will never rust through, is kind of how we explain it.
Mm-hmm.
But it definitely lasts a long period of time. And for those people that want stainless steel, it's a great option to get in at a good
There you go.
price.
There you go. Kind of touching. He is right when he says the 409 might get a little bit of rust in it, but it won't rust through. What you guys might see or experience is a lot of surface rust, and that's really kind of just generated by something that gets a little bit of moisture, gets a little wet on the outside. And honestly, the 409, I know I've dealt with it in the past, and all you can really do if you guys really want to clean it up and make sure it stays tip top, just take a little Scotch Brite pad, and go to work, go to town on it. You got to rub it out a little bit and make sure that rust is basically taken care of if you want to eliminate that rust off the system. And that's only on the T409 system, but like you said, the aluminized 304, if you really want to kind of really make sure there's going to be nothing going on, that really kind of kicks in and takes care of it all. So guys, I want you to think about it as the aluminized 409 and the 304 are your top three, and really kind of go from there. That's what a lot of manufacturers are going to use, and obviously MBRP has done a great job giving you guys the selection between the material choices, obviously hitting everybody's price point. So it's been a really good job with everything that goes that route.
Appreciate
So
that. Yeah.
so kind of next moving on. So we kind of touched on the material choice and why. Okay, now you'll have your materials. Okay, this is what we're going to use. Now, how do we know what size piping is going to come off of the systems? So like, let's say you have an SS or the little V6 or maybe the truck and stuff like that. How do you guys determine the sizing per application? Because obviously sometimes a 3-inch pipe might not fit. So how do you guys determine what you guys are going to use for the application?
That's a really good question. It really comes down to each platform. We generally look at what the factory size is just as a reference point. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's a very good reference point. The new factory systems are coming out. They're fairly aggressive now compared to where they were um, 6 years ago. They're making it hard on us. But at the same time, we look at flow rate. So when we get a new car, we'll pull the system off. We use a flow bench, which will then tell us the flow that's going through the factory exhaust. And then we're looking at that to say, how much do we feel we need to increase this? How much can we increase this without getting into issues further down the line? So at a certain point, you don't want it to flow too much. You want to make sure that it's just the right balance of flow until you get into proper tuning of the engine. So we start there. Again, when we get into our CAD portion and our 3D scanning, that's where we're able to say that we need to tighten something up in a certain area, whether it be around a rear diff, whether it
Mm-hmm.
be tight radius to make a bend that we need to exit the car appropriately. But it all comes down to testing more than anything. And that flow bench is really one of those items. And then the dyno after that tell us if we've succeeded or not. It's a testing area, a proving ground for us.
That's right. That's right. He mentions the dyno, and that's actually a good thing that you mentioned that you guys actually use it, because a lot of guys perceive the dyno as a horsepower number. It's going to give me my horsepower and torque number, and although yes, it does that, but in these guys' field, what they do is that they want to see the horsepower numbers. Yes, everything. That's kind of the ultimate goal, but it is also an actual testing tool. They want to make sure that it's going to sound correctly without having to go out and hook up a bunch of microphones and go out and drive the car. They got the dyno, put it on the dyno, strap it down, let's run at it a little bit and see what it sounds like. You can put load on these different dynos. There's different dynos that you can put load on there. Make sure you can kind of simulate the road action. So that's a good thing that you guys are actually using the dyno, and it's actually very nice that to hear that you guys are wanting to do that, part of the testing. So it's cool.
Absolutely. And I mean, the dyno is one portion of it. I will say that the dyno is our test as a company. And then we have what I'm going to call our CEO test, where really we have to present him the car. He hops in it, he does videos of it, and then he approves it. It's almost like a two-step to ensure that him, being our end consumer, is still happy with what we've produced. It's a little funny, but at the end of the day, It's a two-step sign off.
Well, I mean, man, if I was the CEO with MBRP, I'd want to make sure to drive every car as well too. I mean, I want to make sure they sound good. I mean, you're putting the name behind it. I mean, I'm sure you guys do everything that goes along with it. You probably drive the car. You have a team that helps drive the different vehicles, and you get everyone's opinion. And obviously, his might be the final sign off, but he might not. Like let's just say, if it was me, hey, if the Honda Accord sounds like a Honda Accord, of course we're going to go that route. But if it's a Camaro, I want to make sure that thing's going to sound, the way we want here, with MBRP and stuff like that. That would be me. That's my opinion.
Oh,
But
absolutely. Yeah, every car is different, and you're aiming for what you feel and what we feel the customer wants, and that perfect tone.
that's it, man. One little thing I do want to spin off before we move on to the next one. I do want to spin off. You mentioned the pipe size and the flow and everything like that. Now one question we always get is that a lot of people still have the perception of back pressure. Is that something that you guys kind of play into a factor with the pipe size and determining all that material wise and whatnot? Does the back pressure play a factor into how you guys design these systems?
It does, and for us, it's less about the diameter of the tube. It's more about the muffler choice, or
Yeah.
the resonator that we're going to use in that system. So again, we utilize a wide variety of mufflers, from straight through perforated cores to 2, 3, 5, I think 7 chamber mufflers. So
Hmm.
different mufflers with different sound tubes that ultimately work similar to an organ. So ultimately it allows us to play with different mufflers that will work in the system, both dimensionally, both flow wise, and working on the back pressure. Again, that's part of what those dyno runs are for, is that you're measuring
There you go.
the fuel, the intake, everything at that point in time, and making sure that you're not
Yeah.
putting the car out of balance. So again, the new cars are fairly smart that way. They can correct a lot of the
Hmm.
time, but you never want to put yourself in a situation where you're, seeing on decel it's operating differently than what it should be.
That's right. That's right. I mean, you guys, he kind of answered that question perfectly. I know I kind of threw that at him, but he answered that question perfectly, because that is something that you do want to pay attention to. But with the chambers and everything that go into the mufflers, all that's accounted for, and they make sure they get their flows and everything correct. And once they nail all of that, well, then hey, it's open game from there. So definitely awesome, awesome answer to that question, man. Because that's one question that we kind of get a lot is what about the back pressure? Does anybody take that into consideration? Obviously, there you go. They take it into consideration, and they want to make sure that everything works out perfectly for you guys as the end user. So, okay, so talking a little bit about the muffler design and the back pressure and everything that goes along with it, what made you guys think about the Hemholtz technology and integrating that into your system? Is that something that was kind of new to you guys that y'all started to integrate with Camaro, or was it something that y'all had been looking at, checking out beforehand? And also, I mean, does it help with the drone in y'all's opinion?
Well, that's a funny story. It came with a Camaro ZL1 when they first came out.
Okay.
We had a heck of a time trying to make that system work for us. And what it really ran into was, I'm going to say, 20 dyno runs where we weren't happy with it. It was road testing, we weren't happy with it, and we just simply came down to there has to be a better way.
Uh-huh.
So we really went back to the sound portion of it and went to more of a engineering side rather than, I'm going to say the old style gut feel. So we
Uh-huh.
went back and we started investigating, and we came up with the Hemholtz. We've seen it in a couple applications before that time. It was definitely not extremely popular until as a
Wasn't.
recent to uh, cancel drone. So we started playing with that, and we started going through a lot of the calculations, which I'll tell you right now, I'm not an expert in by any means. I look at the formula and it's a little above
it's,
me, but it
it's numbers.
it takes care of the neck of the tube going into the Hemholtz, and then ultimately the body itself. And there's a
Mhm.
calculation you utilize to take care of a frequency that produces drone. So we
Okay.
went through, we trialed it. We found something that really worked on the ZL1, and we've applied it to the 6th gen Camaro, and has
Okay.
really, taken our product, I think, to a new level. It was something new
Yeah.
for us, and I would actually, we are utilizing it more often than not now as a good way to reduce a little bit of sound, but ultimately address that specific drone frequency when you're driving your car.
There you go. So what I got from that was that the Camaro allowed you guys to take this Hemholtz technology and use it for your other applications, right?
It actually did. Yes. The
See?
Camaro was the
There you
start
guys
of all of it. Yeah.
There you guys go. The Camaro started it all. There you go. It started it all. It's all thanks to you guys for giving y'all's feedback. Obviously, we helped them a little bit with testing and sound. Yes, the system sounds great. I mean, honestly, when that system first came out, when the car first came out back in 2016, and I remember y'all's video that y'all put out, I think with Martin in it, and it really kind of it was a different sound. It was something that was a little raw, but still a little tame. It was something that was just, whoa, which way is the system going? So then we got our hands on the system. We put it on our car, and really, I mean, man, that system, it was great. We did everything with the system, sound clips, installs, and all that stuff with the system, and we had a good time with it. Everyone that saw that car, whether it was at Camaro Fest or different shows we went to, local, out of state, and everything like that, everyone wanted to hear that car, and it was always something that was a very big surprise because, as you guys know, being Camaro owners, y'all might know that on a cold start, the system's loud, even a factory system. Okay, you get this loud uproar. Okay, but then it tames down. Well, that's exactly what the MBRP system did. On startup, it was bam, kind of in your face. Yes, it would start up, but then once that cold start went away, it would come right down to a nice level, and then driving the car, no drone. I mean, we're driving the car, and our car's an automatic. So we're obviously going to be a little more susceptible to that drone frequency just because of the transmission. I understand it might be a little like, really, are you sure? Automatic, manual, they don't have the same? Trust me, they are a little different. But with the MBRP system, it wasn't there. All the sound was outside of the car. Yeah, you get a little bit inside, but all the sound, as soon as you hit the gas, that thing is screaming. And it was going. It sounded, excuse my language, but it sounded badass. We were having a good time with that system.
Mhm.
So it was really one of those things that really kind of took off. It looked nice under the car. Okay, I'm gonna tell you guys right now, it looked nice under the car because under that car, it tucked up under, and you didn't have this big suitcase look, right? It kind of tucked under. You saw these nice, big, flashy tips, and really kind of everything took off from it. So, hats off to you guys and your engineering team for taking that Hemholtz technology and really applying it to the Camaro and setting the pace for you guys that where you use it now. So it's a good
Well, I
job.
appreciate that. It's definitely been an evolution for us, and yeah, exciting that it all started with a Camaro.
Yes. All right. So there we have it. Okay, we have the material size. Okay, we kind of touched on that. Okay, the material and the sizing. Okay, and then we kind of went into the design and everything from there. Touch on the Hemholtz technology mufflers. So now we're going to go and ask about tip size. Okay, we kind of mentioned tip size. Now, tip sizing, does that play a factor into the final look of the system that y'all want to go with? How do you guys decide what tip size to go with on a specific system? As some of these Camaro guys know, I mean, me personally as well, I like to fill out the rear and make sure that we have a nice view of a nice tip sitting out the back,
Mhm.
especially if you're buying one of these systems. So it's always been a good thing that MBRP, you guys have, I know with Camaro systems, it's always been either a 3.5 to a 4-inch tip, I believe, depending on the system, whether it's a V6 or the SS or Z01 systems. So it just depends on the size. But how do you guys go about determining what size to go with?
Well, that really is a good question, and there's a couple answers. I mean, first we look at the actual hole size and determine what we can fit
Hmm.
without causing any issues. And that's the big part there, is that
That's
anything we
definitely.
put on there, we don't want to cause issues. I know for a fact that the 4.5 would fit on a SS.
Hmm.
However, we went with 4-inch because of some of the gaps around those tips. It makes it super tight and just one of those cause for or areas of concern where we don't want to ever hear a customer coming back with a burnt bumper or valance,
Yeah.
whatever it should be. And that's a big part. And I mean, those systems get fairly hot. I mean, we all like to put our foot on the gas, let's be
For
honest,
sure.
hear that new
Very true.
system, and it's going to happen. So we try to go on the side of caution. The
Hmm.
flip side is that we try to go with a little bit of, again, I'm going to go back to that CEO approval. He gives that final look.
Yeah.
But we do try to pick out a couple options that we like. We talk about the stainless steel, the aluminized, and the black. Those two there give two very different looks with a black tip versus a stainless steel tip that comes in both the aluminized and the stainless. The one thing we're starting to play with now, and I actually have one here beside me, is a little bit of a carbon fiber look. Something a little different with some stainless inside on it. Something that can work for both sides, but really just be an upgrade for the customers that are looking to change tips out, looking to, create a different flash at the rear of their car.
Gotcha. Okay. Now this is something you guys, and I'm going to go a little off track here. Now, he picked up that carbon tip. Now, let me ask you this, Josh. Is that carbon tip something that can be applied to a lot of y'all's applications? Is it something that's kind of y'all developed to be a little universal? So these guys with like the carbon hood inserts, or maybe they have a carbon deck lid, or maybe a carbon diffuser, and they want to finish it off with their exhaust tips to have the carbon fiber. Is that something that can be adapted to a Camaro system fairly easy?
It absolutely is. So what we do is we make the tips bolt on, which allows for tips to be swapped out, allows for tips to be adjusted, depending on the look you're going for, underneath the car more, outside the car more. But these tips are similar versions of each other, let's put it that way. There's slightly different angles to them, there's different finishes to them, but at the end of the day, they really will bolt in and bolt out on whichever car you have at this point in time.
Awesome. So that gives you guys a little bit of insights that that even though they're manufacturing the systems, you can still kind of take that tip they have there that is a universal fit, we'll call it, and you can adapt it to your Camaro system and really kind of go from there. So that's cool. I'm going to have my team look at that. I'm going to make a note here: carbon tips. All right, make a note there so that way we can have our team go back and look at it and see if we can get these adapted. And who knows, we might order a set for our car and stick them on. Who knows? Anyways, moving on. Let's see here. Now installation is always one of those things that plays a factor for everybody, myself included, because when I'm putting on a system, I think of it how most of the other customers would kind of feel. Is it easy for me to do? Is it something that I can do in my garage? Weekend project, something like that. And if it's not something I can do in my garage, is it going to cost me a lot? So those are some of the things that kind of run through my head when we're looking at these products and when we're kind of talking to these different manufacturers about their product. What's it going to take to really have a system installed? Now, the question I get is the ease of installation play a factor in y'all's systems and y'all's designs? Are they kind of geared to ensure that the customer would not have a problem installing this themselves? Is that something that y'all take into consideration?
It absolutely is. And it's a large part of what we do during the design. And I'm going to bring it back to our CEO. He wears many hats. But part of what he does is some videos of our content. And again, we give him a sample instruction sheet at that point in time. And we say, you put it together. And at that point, he needs to figure it out, but have it we need to have made it simple enough that he can. Okay. So we do a lot of testing that way. And we're not happy until he can toss it on and off without much of an issue. And then it really just makes it that much easier for our end customer. And our end customer, we know, are a lot of those DIY guys, the guys that are doing it in their laneway. I'm going to pick on the aluminized system. It's at a price point where people can afford it. They want to put it on themselves. They have the know-how to put it on themselves. Yeah. And ultimately, we want to make it easier on them. Now, one of the other portions that we really focus on, which kind of drives into your business model, is actually the free freight that you offer, and trying to put some time into ensuring that we go to less oversized boxes, which I know allows you to then ship these products for free, right? So it's important from both sides of the design that we make sure that it will fit in a smaller box for the customer, so they can take advantage of the freight that you offer, and then ultimately at the same time take advantage of an easy install.
See, there you guys go. I mean, when MBRPs, I guess, says they're thinking of everybody, they're really thinking of everything. Even when it comes down to us, you might get a lot of manufacturers that are just like, hey, this is the system, this is what it is, go from there. But for the fact that MBRP is trying to decide, okay, how small of a box can we fit it in, so that way, their retailers can offer it, and ourselves included, to get these systems to you for a free freight charge. No freight charge. I mean, no one likes to pay shipping, right? Unfortunately, taxes That's something different. Uncle Sam wants his cut, unfortunately, and we're getting more and more that way. But the free freight is always kind of a good thing to have because, it's one thing that just makes you kind of feel good. You're getting free shipping, not getting charged anymore. So it's one thing that we kind of really kind of do with MBRP systems, and we want to make sure we kind of keep. So it's good that MBRP is keeping that in mind to make sure that you guys have a small little box. I mean, let's be honest. Let's say you can't get the box delivered to your house for whatever reason. At least you can go pick it up in that Camaro and stick it in the back, right? At least you
Absolutely.
can try.
You can try.
So definitely, it's one of those things that the installation on these systems, guys, is really. I mean, I put plenty of systems on, and although on the 6th gen you might have to cut the factory system to slip it in place, once those cuts are made, the system goes together like a puzzle. It really goes together really easily. Their instructions are very detailed. They tell you what you got to do. You guys that might be putting on an axle back system, they tell you exactly where to cut, where you got to do. They even tell you to kind of clean out the edges to make sure there's no burrs so you can put the pipe back in place. It's one of those things that it's that detailed. That's something that really kind of helps you guys as the end user to understand they developed it, they made it this way, and they're giving you the tips for installation. So not a lot of people really kind of do that. So again, hats off to MBRP for doing it. They're helping you guys out.
Thank you.
So talking about cat backs and axle backs, okay. Now, are there performance gains between the two? Is a cat back system better to go with than an axle back system? I know we get the question a lot, so it's one thing that I want to get your opinion, Josh, as far as what's better to go with performance-wise. Let's say the guy's trying to optimize the performance out of his car. He wants every little horsepower he can get. Is a cat back going to be fine? Is an axle back going to be okay? Maybe they make the same. What's you guys' takes on it, and what's a personal choice for you guys? Do you all like the cat back? Do you all like the axle back more?
Well, I'll lead with a personal choice, and that's definitely cat back. When I get a car and I'm building it, I want to put on as much pipe, make as much free flowing air as possible, or exhaust at that point in time, and then really capitalize. Because you call it a sickness, but nobody ever just does an exhaust, right?
Right.
It's the intake, it's the tune, it's the engine components, it's on and on. So from my standpoint, and a lot of us at MBRP, we're very cat back people,
Awesome.
simply because we all have a sickness that is the automotive industry. There are more performance gains out of a cat back because you're removing more resonators and likely freeing up more airflow than an axle back. But there's also, we'll come back to that price difference between an axle back and a full cat back system. The axle back is a great option for the guy that wants something louder, that wants a totally different look than the factory, and really, wants to pay the smaller amount of money to get there, but the guy that wants to go make the most amount of power, cat back 100%.
100%, man. I'm going to agree with Josh on that one. I'll put an axle back on a car, don't get me wrong, but if the whole system can be replaced, might as well replace the whole system. Why not, right? I mean, I'm already there, going to do the job once, and like he said, it leads into the other parts that you're going to do, the headers, the intakes, and all that stuff just kind of leads into each other. So why not just eliminate the factory system completely, stick with the cat back on it, and we're going down the road. Kind of touching on that and hearing that you guys are all kind of performance driven, your gearheads, there at MBRP. I know you guys have a big racing background, going all the way back to, man, I couldn't, 15 years, from what I know. Okay. From what I know, it could go longer, but the racing background that MBRP has behind them is really something that you all like to stick to. I mean, you look at the background of his video and you see the racetrack sitting in the back, you see the cars on the track. Obviously that Corvette's probably going to see a track time here or two, coming up. I mean, it's going to be interesting. So give us a little bit about your racing background, because I know that's something interesting and something I would also like to know more about with MBRP. So where do y'all go for this racing background? How did y'all start it?
It actually started the company. We said it was a sickness, and it really was. So, Martin, our CEO, my father, started MBRP in 1996, and before that, he was drag racing I believe an LS swapped Ford Carrier, I believe it was, or a Ford Ranger. But
LS swap the world. That's what we're doing, man. That's what we're doing.
yeah, exactly. So it started there, and I mean, his father before him even drag racing. I grew up; it was all about a T-Buck at that point in time. And over the years, we've always had, whether it be go-karts from time to time, and then Martin really getting into racing cars, going from small regional racing up to the sports car challenge with IMSA in a Z28 Camaro, to where he's at right now with a GT3 NSX in the Pirelli World Challenge. And there's been lots in between there, between off-road racing, Ultra 4, something I was lucky enough to participate in at one point in time as well. We really just we want to get back into the racing as much as possible, because that's where you connect with the people that are really using your products. I could walk around that paddock and, pick out the exhaust systems that aren't factory, and that those are, your type of people. We like those type of people. So
Right, exactly, man. That's great that you guys, really kind of, this kind of shows that MBRP started from virtually ground zero, like you guys. You guys are in the racing world. You like to autocross your cars. Whether you have the Turbo 4, the V6, the SS, the Z01, I mean, the Z28, all of them. It really kind of shows you guys that MBRP started, with an LS swap Ford, and really kind of worked his way up, and now he's in the NSX, and God knows how many cars that have probably been before that. I mean, you guys probably have, so many pictures and so much stuff of all this racing content that it's just like, whoa, it can really kind of probably get nuts over time. And I'm assuming you guys have, I know we only see 3 pictures, but that's probably 3 out of 3,000,
That it definitely is. It is what our company was built on, and really still is today, with Martin continually racing, finding new ways that he wants to race, on-road, off-road. And really just our whole group, it was actually quite fun when we started. We actually took employees off the floor that could turn a wrench, and we were taking them to the racetrack with us, because, the mechanic, the tire change guy, I was part of that as well, fortunate to switch some tires out. But just, it was that team that we had, and today we're 130 strong. And I can tell you that kind of focus still runs through our company a lot.
That's good, man. I mean, it's good to hear that you guys took your team and was, like you said, basically guys working off the floor. You took your team and said, you know what, let's put this together. And you started developing this stuff. And obviously you guys have done a great job putting everything together. So hats off to you guys, your employees, your teams, everybody that's involved with everything MBRP, because that's really something that's it's hard to find. It's one of those things that I feel like it's kind of hard to find in a company, to have the employees and people that want to, excel with what's going on. So it's good to hear that you guys have something like that going on with your team. So it's good job.
I appreciate that. It's exciting here for sure.
Definitely. Now, one last thing. Okay, one last thing before we go. One last thing that I gotta know. And it's one thing that's a concern to everybody. And this might be a little awkward conversation between a manufacturer, but you know what? It's one thing that we can definitely get answered, so that way everyone has an idea of what's going on. Warranty. Nobody likes it. It's one of those things that's always got to have some, little thing here or there. You got to do something here or there. Same thing goes if you got to take your car down to the dealership, you kind of inconvenienced a little bit, but you got to take it over there, get it taken care of. But I know MBRP, before I go any further, MBRP takes care of everything, guys. They try to make it as simple and as easy as possible, so that way you guys aren't inconvenienced. So, Josh, warranty. How do you guys stand behind your product with the 3 different material options that you guys have? Well, not really material options, but the aluminized, the 409, and the black. You guys have those. Oh, sorry, I have 4. The 304 also. The materials. How do you guys decide which one is warranted a certain way, or is it kind of a blanket option that you guys have and you're like, you know what, we're going to just take care of all the systems the same way? How does the warranty work with you guys?
Well, it's really staged for those different materials. For both stainless, the 409 as well as the 304, we have a lifetime warranty on it. As long as you're the original owner of the vehicle, the exhaust, then you have a lifetime warranty, that it will not rust through, that it will not break on you, hangers to weld on the muffler, whatever it is. you are 100% covered because that material was built to last. When it comes down to the black and the AL, again, it comes back to, I'll call it that budget price point for in a mild climate. So the black, again, has a 1 year on the coating. The hard part about the coating, obviously underneath the car, it's hit by rock, sand, and everything else pelted at it. But then the material underneath, which is aluminized, has a 3-year warranty on it, which again comes down to our aluminized products having a 3-year warranty on it as well. Depending on the climate, you may never need to use your warranty in those 3 years. You know, Texas, Florida, you should be good to go. When you're looking at northern climates that are, you know, salt on the road and, you know, gravel roads everywhere, that aluminized can definitely get eaten up by some elements, and that's where we'll stand behind it. And if it is one of those cases, we'll take care of it. The one thing that we always know, and we look at our warranty report, is we have this area, you know, a little inside info that's just because. We just say, just because we're going to take care of this guy at a super discounted price. You know, it may not have been within the warranty specs, how we stand up for it, but you know what? We don't want anybody out there saying MBRP, you know, hung me out to dry. We really want to take care of everybody. So, you know, I look at it, and most of the times I'm actually kind of thankful is that that just because area is probably larger than the warranty issues that we're actually having. So one of those areas we try to stand up for our customers, work with you guys. At the end of the day, it's part of the marketing, part of who we are and what we believe in.
You know, man, I mean, that's something great to hear, because, you know, we hate getting the phone call when something like that happens. I mean, we hate getting it. My service guys, they hate hearing about it. We hate hearing about it in our meetings and everything from there. But knowing that a manufacturer will do the best they can to stand behind it, whether it's something that, you know what, like you said, if they can't work with, they're going to work with you a little bit as best they can, even by offering you something maybe at a steep discount, just so that way they can make sure that you're taken care of and you're at least happy with their end product, which is always good to hear, because you want someone to take that extra step to make sure that you guys are all taken care of, because it is something that plays a factor. You bought this system, you want it to operate obviously for as long as it can. Unfortunately, like you said, the road elements, the nature elements and stuff like that, unfortunately we can't control, but they do have the different options. So if you're living in a northern state, and Josh, correct me if I'm wrong if you don't think this way, but if you're living in a northern state, then you might want to look at more of a 409 stainless or a 304 stainless system instead of the 409. If you're looking, you know, if you live somewhere with a lot of salt on the roads, like you said, a lot of the elements and stuff like that, a 304 system is probably going to be right up your alley. You live somewhere down here in Texas where we don't get a lot of salt on the roads, like I said, Florida as well, you might want to stick with the aluminized on a 409 stainless. Those are, you know, will have a lower price rate and probably fit the bill a little bit better. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Josh.
No, you are absolutely correct, and definitely what we advise our customers to do if they're calling in for information about systems.
There you go. Definitely. Well, Josh, I mean, I went through everything on my list, man. You answered everything probably better than I probably could have. I mean, obviously being the manufacturer, you probably have a little bit more insight, but you know, everything on here, guys, from the material choice to the design to the back pressure that was kind of thrown in there, to the tip sizes, to the Hemholtz technology and stuff like that, the catback and axle back, the ease of installation for everything. Josh, you've done a great job answering it all. And I mean, thanks for going through this with us, so that way it gives you guys, you know, a little bit more insight as to what it takes to develop a system, what it takes to offer the system, and really kind of go from there. So Josh, I mean, thanks a lot, buddy, for taking the time out of your day to talk to us about this.
No problem at all. Enjoyed it. It was great to connect, and definitely great to share some of this information and get it out there in the market for everybody.
Awesome,
Appreciate
man.
Your time.
Awesome, man. I mean, like you heard it from Josh. He enjoys telling you guys this information. Hopefully, maybe one day we'll do this, you know, maybe for something else. You know, maybe he has that Corvette. I'm very interested in that Corvette in the background. So I know one day we are going to connect about that Corvette and do something with it. So we'll see you guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. If you guys would like any more information about MBRP products, go ahead and click the link in the description. And also, thank you for joining. Josh, again, thank you very much, my man, and we'll see you guys next time.